Okay, really thank you to the Native Plant Nursery Network and Elisa and everyone that put this on together today. It's a little daunting to talk about specifically how pathogens move on nursery stock to people that are involved in nursery stock production. I really don't mean any of this, don't take it personally. Phytophthora, I hate to use kind of a gross example, but it's a little like plaque in human teeth. Really, Phytophthoras and plants are intimately related. They are together. They're very, very difficult to get rid of. And what I am here to do is present a brief context for some of the problems that we're going to talk about in detail today. Everything really starts with sudden oak death. The most research we have is on sudden oak death. I know a lot of you know a lot about sudden oak death, so I won't talk a lot about sudden oak death, but I had to show the data we have. And then we're going to go all around the world, and you'll see some really mysterious, these are all really mysterious puzzles that we're trying to understand. Okay, so Phytophthora morum, I think this is just some pictures. Really, my concern, although I'm concerned about horticulture, is really about the forests. And I can't believe, really, that I am in front of a group after working on 20 years with sudden oak death that we had this problem that you'll hear about from the San Francisco Public Utilities Commission. And after we've learned so much and have been watching these problems, millions of trees, tan oak, coast live oak, have died along the coast of California. Here a little closer to home, Marin County, we're working with Janet Klein, who's here, and others to try to rehabilitate some of these sites. So I think most of you know that Phytophthora morum, the cause of sudden oak death, was first found in the United States in a nursery in Santa Cruz on rhododendron. And if you look through where it looks like there's snow, that's the location of the nursery. And the nursery is surrounded by forest, and now if you go into Santa Cruz area, the disease has spread miles and miles in every direction from there. I think many of you are also familiar with, in 2004, a problem at a large Southern California nursery where Phytophthora morum plants were shipped, potentially infected plants, and one in Oregon where, you can see the potential for distribution. We're focusing here more on restoration. Plants most of the time don't move as far. But you'll see through this talk that nursery stock, I think it's like Walmart distribution. It's a great, unfortunately, a very good avenue for plant diseases to move. Okay, so really, Phytophthora morum was really the first plant forest disease that we actually had enough money and enough research to actually track genetically, like fingerprints, and we could see that this pathogen really did move. You can see all the way across the country from a few nurseries. And then in this one, you can see from Europe to the United States, and round it goes. I thought, so in 2008 or so, published in 2009, Lonnie Yukavi and others, with the attention of Phytophthora morum on foliar nursery diseases, they went into the nurseries in California and they found 14 species of Phytophthora. And this is an old slide, and I say, what if these escape the nursery? And I give other talks talking about runoff and all the ways I think other speakers will talk about how these things can move off a nursery. But what's scary to me is here, they don't have to escape the nursery. We're planting them right in the forest. It really makes me very nervous. So now I'll show you why I am nervous. I want to show you just a few, and really I had to pick and choose in a short amount of time which Phytophthora problems around the world to talk about, because there are many. This first one is in Argentina. This is a healthy tree. This is Astrocedrus chilensis. It's like an incense cedar. All right, this picture here is an Esquel, and there's a very large nursery in Bariloche, which is a very nice tourist area if anyone is interested in going to the Andes Mountains. And planting stock in the 60s, the government had an incentive program. You'll see that is a theme of many of these disease problems, government subsidies for planting and moving things into forests. Unfortunately, often have unintended consequences. So this is Phytophthora astrocedrus. Since the 60s, wiping out these plants growing on it's in the steppe. It's on the area just where there's enough water, but not, also a lot of drought stress. And really, one thing I want to stress is that Phytophthora, Tetsuwiki may argue with me, but Phytophthora really are they're often everywhere. The problems that we have, the areas where we have problems with are when water, like in these conditions, there's a clay layer, and the water collects under these. So the conditions at the site of the forest are very important. Okay, well, if that wasn't weird enough, here, that same thing that was in Argentina in 2010 shows up in Scotland, on juniper. And you can see the similar symptom, this dead cambium, and this is healthy tissue, and this is dead. Again, this area here in Scotland also has a high water table, letting the Phytophthora do their thing. How it got, they don't think actually that it came from Argentina to the UK. They don't really know how it got around. So it will unfold in the next few years. All right, so now back to California, Oregon, Washington. Phytophthora lateralis. I'm just curious, are you familiar with Phytophthora lateralis, Port Orford cedar root disease? I get some head nodding. You can see, started in 1923, first recognized outside a nursery near Seattle, Washington. So Port Orford cedar, they're beautiful trees, used as ornamentals in the Pacific Northwest. So it went from the nursery to the ornamentals, from the ornamentals eventually to the forest. And now it's throughout anywhere that Port Orford cedar grows in California and Oregon. Monrovia grows a resistant plant, although when I looked it was not available. But that is one approach that people use. Okay, so now what happened in Europe? In 1995 in Europe we had the first nursery detection of Phytophthora lateralis. And unfortunately we see a similar progression there where we see it first shows up in the nursery, it moves on hedgerows, ornamentals, and then into the forest. And one thing interesting is that in the UK, so in the United States we're used to seeing a root rot, and in the UK they see a lot of branch dieback high up in the trees, which is some of the other plant thought. We can't understand how it actually gets up there and what's happening. But these things are, Phytophthoras is all kind of they're very adaptable, they're really a force of nature, like a fire or anything else. They're really, really tough for humans to control. Okay, also in Scotland, found on Thuya, recently in a nursery. Not good. Okay, so where did these things come from? In 2008, Clive Brazier and others figured out that this Phytophthora lateralis, originates in Taiwan. So usually in their native environment, these organisms have biological control, other things to keep in check. So you don't usually see damage or very much damage where they're local. And then when they get moved to other places, other trees aren't adapted to them, and that's when we see problems. Oh, Phytophthora in Spain. So this southern Spain, very similar to California. These are cork oaks and government.
What's this for you?
Oh, okay. Thank you. Okay, the economics, if you look at Spain, tough economic country. And as incentives to landowners in southern Spain, they did a huge reforestation effort maybe 20 years ago. And unfortunately, the nurseries where they grew their stock had Phytophthoras, and now this is what they're seeing checkered all over southern Spain. Oh, Phytophthora only. Alder. So alders are riparian species. Phytophthora are waterborne, and they grow alder seedlings in wetland areas, which is one thing. I don't know how much other speakers are going to talk about locating nurseries in wetlands, but it's really Phytophthora heaven. And because this pathogen also moves in waterways, Phytophthora only first found in the mid-90s, I think, spread all through Europe. And that's really what a Phytophthora looks like, which is pretty weird. There's something this small, microscopic. It swims. I think Ted's going to talk more, so I won't dwell on that. Okay, but what's really interesting and amazing is this Phytophthora only, or Phytophthora only, the damaging one, is a hybrid. And it's two Phytoptheras got together. Where's a good place for two Phytoptheras to meet that have never met before? A nursery. We don't actually know what happened. And really, a lot of times I will admit that we point the finger when we don't know at nurseries, but anyway, that is the way it is. What is fascinating is one of the parents, so this is Uniformis multiformis and forming this only. One of them is very common in Alaska, all over. And also, again, not causing damage on the alder in Alaska. So looks like this devastating problem in Europe is probably native to, at least one of the parents native to Alaska. How it got around, I have no idea. Okay, then a little work done by Suzanne and Cheryl, who will be speaking to you later. I just find, this one isn't as damaging, but I also find it just totally interesting. Phytophthora siskiuensis. This is the Foster City area, right by a library. Shows up on the planted alder. This tree, this one, is in Southern California, near Los Angeles. They started seeing alder dying there, black spots. And now they have the siskiuensis in Australia. It looks like it's native to Oregon, Washington, moving around again on alder, and most recently found in the UK 20 years after planting. So some of these things don't move that fast. Take some time for them to develop. All right, so now bringing it closer to restoration, we do have another example from Oregon where they were doing a mine reclamation project. And a few years ago, this is on Ceanothus, and found 3 Phytophthora. So they planted this mine with Ceanothus, the plants declined. They went to the lab and found 3 Phytophtheras. Ted, are you going to talk about Cactorum here? Yeah. Ted Swiggy's later going to talk about one of these species. Cactorum was also found in Ceanothus near San Jose, more recently here. But they also found this new one that had never been found before. And again, just emphasizes the importance importance of restoration as a real potential, I don't know what to call it, a threat. Okay, why Phytophthoras? Why are they such a problem? There's been quite a lot of genetic work, a lot of sequencing, and Phytophthoras do have unique genetic abilities to adapt. They have big genomes with all these effectors and elicitors and all this kind of stuff, and really are amazing pathogens. And I think, yeah, that's about all I wanted to say as a way of introduction. I really appreciate, prevention is our only hope, really, at this point. Once these things get out into the forest, we spend a lot of time. I've worked 20 years on Phytophthora morum, and we really need to prevent these problems from happening. Thanks.